Methods of paying zakat. 79. Just as it is permissible to pay zakat on gold, silver, crops, livestock, and commercial goods directly from the items themselves, in kind, it is also permissible to pay the equivalent value of these items. Here, the owners of these properties have the freedom to choose. The same ruling applies to expiations, vows, and fitra. This is because Islamic Sharia requires that convenience be provided to the owners of property. Wisdom behind the obligatory nature of this act of worship is to relieve the poor from their needs. This wisdom is also achieved by giving the equivalent value of these properties. For this reason, a person may give silver, grain, or cloth in place of zakat on gold for livestock or merchandise. Cash may also be given. However, it is best to choose the option that is most beneficial for the poor. According to Imam Shafi, zakat on items subject to zakat must be paid in the form of those same items. Their equivalent value may not be given. 80. Just as it is permissible to pay zakat by giving another item in exchange for an item or debt subject to zakat, it is also permissible to donate a debt to a poor person in exchange for a debt that cannot be collected. However, it is not permissible to donate a debt as secete in exchange for property or a collectible debt. This is because, in terms of value, a debt is inferior to property, AYI. A deficient thing cannot be given in exchange for a complete thing. A debt to be collected is also located where the goods are. For this reason, a person may give as zakat the 3 liras in his possession, or commercial good worth 3 liras, in lieu of a cash balance of 120 liras or the amount of money he is owed by someone else. Furthermore, if one were to donate the entire amount of a debt owed by a poor person to that same person, whether or not one intended it as zakat, one would have paid the zakat on that debt. However, if they donate only a portion of this debt to that poor person, zakat has been paid only on that donated portion. The zakat on the remaining amount to be collected would not be considered paid. Furthermore, if a person donates a debt owed by a needy person to that same person as zakat on property in the donor's possession, this would not constitute payment of zakat on that property. Likewise, if a person donates a debt owed by a poor person to that same poor person as zakat on a debt owed by another person, this does not constitute payment of zakat on the debt owed by that other person. 81. If a person wishes to relieve their poor debtor of their debt and also pay, even partially, the zakat on their own assets, they give the debtor an amount of cash equal to the debt with the intention of paying zakat. The debtor then uses this money to pay off his debt to his creditor. 82. If a debt owed by a wealthy person is forgiven after 1 year has passed, according to the correct opinion, the zakat on that debt is not waived. 83. If a person allows a poor person to go and collect a debt owed to him by another man, intending to count that amount toward the zakat due on an asset he possesses, the zakat is considered paid once the money reaches the poor person's hands. 84. Just as it is not permissible to combine nisabs that have already been calculated, it is also not permissible to combine separate nisabs. For example, if a person has 80 sheep, he is required to pay zakat on only 1 sheep. Otherwise, since the sheep total 2 nisab amounts, it is not necessary to pay zakat on 2 sheep. However, if 2 people equally own 80 sheep in common, they must pay zakat on 2 sheep. This is because each partner owns a number of sheep equal to the nisab. These cannot be combined. These sheep cannot be considered as if they were the property of just one partner. However, if 40 sheep or 20 miskal of gold are jointly owned by 2 people, and there are no other assets subject to zakat, then zakat is not required. This is because neither of the partners individually possesses the nisab amount. If one of the 2 partners' share reaches the nisab amount but the other's does not, that person does not pay zakat. The one who possesses the nisab pays it. If one partner has 40 sheep and the other has 20, the first pays zakat on 1 sheep, while the second pays none. Likewise, this ruling applies to property. shared between a person obligated to pay zakat and one who is not. The person obligated to pay zakat pays their zakat, while the non-obligated partner pays zakat in proportion to their share. The other party is not required to pay zakat on their share. 85. Zakat on property that has reached the nisab amount may be paid in advance before the year has ended, because the nisab, which is the basis for the obligation, has been met. It is essentially permissible to bring forward and pay in advance a debt that is due at a later date. This is a beneficial act for the poor. However, for property that does not reach the nisab threshold, it is not permissible to pay zakat before the years elapse. If this property later reaches the nisab amount, zakat must be paid separately at the end of 1 year from that point on. The zakat paid earlier is considered a charity, according to Imam Malik. Zakat cannot be paid in advance. In the same way, worship cannot be performed before its designated time. According to Imam Shafi, only 1 year's worth of zakat may be paid in advance. It may not be paid in advance for more than 1 year. 86. The zakat due on property reaching the nisab amount for several years may be paid all at once, as long as this amount is available at the end of the year. The zakat is considered paid. If this amount decreases, the excess amount paid counts as sadaqah. 87. For example, if a person has 100 liras, if they hastily pay 200 lira in zakat in advance, intending for it to count toward the zakat on the additional 100 lira they will possess that same year, if they do not come into possession of it, toward the zakat on the existing 100 lira due the following year, this intention is valid. 88. If, for example, a person has 1,000 lira but mistakenly believes they have 2,000 lira and pays zakat accordingly, they may count the excess zakat paid toward the zakat due the following year. 89. If a person, having assets consisting of both gold and silver, each of which individually meets the nisab threshold, hastens to pay zakat in advance on only one of them, this zakat is considered to have been paid on both. This is because they are considered as one category and accounted together. Such a distinction is unnecessary. Therefore, if one of these assets is lost during the year, this zakat is considered to have been paid in full for the other. However, this is not the case with animals. Paying the zakat on these types of animals in advance in this hasty manner cannot be counted toward the zakat of the others. 90. If a person wishes to pay a poor person's debt from the zakat of his property with the poor person's permission, he is paid his zakat. However, if they pay it without the poor person's consent, the debt is settled, but zakat is not considered to have been paid. 91. If a person, with the intention of paying zakat, has clothing made or provides food to an orphan who is not a direct relative but is only obligated to be supported due to kinship, the zakat is considered fulfilled. However, if one wishes to count the meal eaten together with such an orphan at one's own table as zakat, this is permissible according to Imam Abu Yusuf, but it is not permissible according to Imam Azam and Imam Muhammad, because in this case, there is nitrogen monoxide specific designation. 92. It is a requirement that zakat be transferred to a person eligible to receive it, that it become their property. Therefore, meals served to the poor as a gesture of hospitality do not count as zakat. Likewise, money spent on charitable causes cannot be considered zakat. Zakat funds cannot be used to finance the Hajj or to free a slave. They cannot be used to build a mosque, madrasa, fountain, road, or bridge. Likewise, zakat funds cannot be used to purchase shrouds for the deceased or to pay off debts. However, if a poor person voluntarily spends the zakat money they received on such charitable purposes, both the poor person and the person who gave them the zakat will earn reward. Furthermore, it is not permissible to count providing housing for a poor person as zakat. This is because such an act is not considered a gift.